In white, silver, and apricot faience, the young mother of humanism stands above you. A crack runs across her body. She is impossibly tall, oval-faced and sad, a dark and radiant majesty. This is her innocence, Dolores Day.
Okay.
Cradled in her arms are a pair of glowing lungs, clearly visible from underneath her flowing dress. You should kneel.
No.
Cold wind seeps in from the crack in the glass. Snowdrifts cover the floorboards at your feet. Above, you feel her multicolored eyes on you, inspecting you.
Look up? No. No, I am not your bug. I mean, I'm trying to look up anyway, so let's do that.
The woman looks down at you standing there. She towers among her followers, architects, laymen, courtiers. There is a sad smile on her lips and a glint in her green-blue eye. Of what? Compassion? Remorse? She acknowledges the passing of someone who is still alive.
More XP. It's compassion, it's remorse, it's mourning, it's not possible to live. So, yes, it's mourning, but for someone who's still alive.
As that terrible word passes through your mind, the lieutenant draws an X-shaped cross from shoulder to shoulder.
Why? I'm not sure why I can't not do that, but I guess I have to do the same.
Your fingertips touch your chest 4 times as you stand in the apricot-colored light of the window. Above you, the woman still smiles, her distant smile, sundered by the crack in the glass.
Okay, so this is Dolores Day. How did I know this is the mother of humanism? Well, I read The Greatest Innocence. And a visual calculus check of 12, reconstruct the cracked glass. Now, I know that I have something to take away from visual calculus. I don't know if I've got stuff to add to it. So I'll hold off on this one, but I can do the encyclopedia check.
Despite the damage you've done to yourself, the title appears lodged in your hippocampus. This is her innocence, Dolores Day. The innocence of humanism, internationalism, and the welfare state. Perhaps the most famous human being ever to have lived. No amount of Commodore Red can wipe her sad smile from your brain thing. It has survived the deluge and haunts you still, and will haunt you forever, as it haunts all men.
Wait, what exactly is an innocence? I've read a book, but it was fuzzy.
The highest category of historic individual, an embodiment of the world spirit.
A ruler or a tyrant? I guess we'll go with the neutral a ruler.
More, an innocence is elected to office by the founding party, a precedent that has taken place a mere 6 times in the entirety of history. The legal system of the Real Belt is built to accommodate innocentic rule should it coincide with our time. An innocence is infallible. The decisions made by one are not decisions. They are inevitabilities. What would have happened anyway? Only accelerated, packed into decades instead of centuries. An innocence is a continuous, compressed event, a sacred human being. It is an honor and a glory to live when one is in office.
It's kind of like in Skyrim, where one of the... I forget the names exactly, but basically one of the humans is ascended to a deity level. So they were around at the time of Oblivion, and then by the time of Skyrim, they are revered as, you know, a god and have a religion around them. That's kind of like an interesting kind of reference point here. These are human beings, but they are essentially like prophets, and people take their word as gospel. Is one in office now?
No, we are alone.
Okay, when did Dolores Day rule?
300 years ago, in the wake of the discovery of this Isola, the Insulindian, by explorers from the continent of Muindi. She is, among other things, the innocence of inter-isolary travel and the connected world.
So that was the time when people were crossing the Pale? What else do I know about Dolores Day?
Many things. You know she was a woman of the court, the wife of an influential Marchese, and eventually the principal advisor to Irene La Navigateur, Queen of Seren, modern-day Sur-la-Clé, also that she was gorgeous beyond beauty.
Okay, what else? Was she smart?
Terribly, women of the court were expected to play both contract bridge and chess sufficiently well to prove an interesting challenge to a man. A simple grasp in matters of philosophy, theology, and science was encouraged. She was, by all means, a kept woman. She made the most of her position in the antediluvian court, a court visited by the most prominent thinkers and artists of the day. In secret, she was becoming the era's preeminent philosopher of the state. A scalpel, a piercing gaze. She was an almost preternaturally magnetic and intelligent individual. To her contemporaries, she appeared out of time, a messenger from the future of the species. We all fell in love with her, head over heels. Even before she was declared an innocence, her influence was tremendous.
Which is why everyone goes crazy over Dolores Day. I think specifically Renee. How come?
It was on her advice that Irene Le Navigateur sponsored a number of voyages into the Pale. A costly, often tragic endeavor, ultimately vindicated by the discovery of the new world, the piece of reality you're standing on.
So yeah, so she was around at the time of traveling through the Pale and discovered new parts of the world.
She was crowned 2 years after the first expedition returned, setting in motion what is widely considered the greatest era in history, the DeLorean era.
Wow, I don't care. I'm going to say wow.
Wow, indeed. When her innocence was declared, and the queen she had advised for years fell on her knees before her, she was so overcome with emotion that her lungs started glowing in her chest.
Is that real?
Bystanders reported golden filaments lighting the already sunlit chamber around her, clearly visible beneath her dress.
Okay, so I guess that did happen then, if there were people around to visibly confirm it. And that's an interesting concept of, people demonstrating their godliness, their deity status, with actual physical representations of it.
That is why the lungs are the symbol of love for the cultures of the Real Belt.
And more XP. I want more.
As did we all. The lands of the Mesk and the Occident, and even far away Supremwindi. Altogether, 21 of the 40 Mundial nations of the time immediately accepted Innocentic rule, even before her crowning.
Her crowning?
In a city called Advesperaskit in Vesper Messina, her homeland. The name of the city means evening comes, but it happened on a winter's morning, with the canals frozen and slush falling out of the sky. She was dressed in a white and pearl dress on an emptied-out plaza with the crowd far away. Already, her Theriers, the secret servicemen of the Innocence, were worried about an assassination attempt.
Yeah, I guess even if you did have someone that was considered to be a sacred human being, there will always be someone that wants to take them out, take them away. She must have been beautiful. I don't care how she looked, I don't care, it doesn't hurt me. She must have been beautiful.
Oh yes, she looked like humanity's young mother, a perfect mother. Insultingly beautiful. It was as if her face and shoulders and hands were covered in a soft down of underfeathers. You know this well, very well.
No, you know this well, Encyclopedia. I have no memory.
Midwinter snow was beating the cobblestones around her. A small attaché of officials stood by as her Theriers placed a white gold wreath on her head. The crowning was mostly witnessed by secret servicemen.
That seems kind of pointless, doesn't it? Surely the whole point of a coronation is to do it in public where the masses can see. Then what?
One of the men in this secret service killed her 22 years later. A young man who had come to suspect that Dolores Day was not entirely human, but something else.
Well, I mean, that's a long period of time, 22 years later. So, the man suspected that she wasn't human. What?
Something that had walked in our midst. watching us stumble for hundreds, if not thousands of years, until it decided to interfere in the course of our history. We were supposed to come up with this ourselves, the man was reported to have screamed at the Innocence.
I mean, that does kind of line up with the contemporary seeing her as a message from the future of the species. It's the concept of you don't interact with civilizations until they have proven that they are capable of working together for a common goal, which is a common thing in science fiction, like Star Trek and the Orville, is you don't go back in time, you don't interfere with stuff that is not supposed to happen until they have proven that they have, common interests in mind.
Dolores Day was shot in the chest with a fowling piece 8 times. The man, thought to be insane, said he once touched her and her body had been unnaturally warm, like a furnace, and that sometimes, while on duty, he observed her forgetting to breathe for over 10 minutes.
Okay. That sounds like it sounds like he's not going to be taken seriously. But that also does lend a bit more credence to the fact that she's not actually human.
This inhuman quality was witnessed by many others as well, glowing lungs and all. It is commonly attributed to mass hysteria and religious psychology.
Yeah, that's the problem with this kind of stuff, is if you don't have people who are able to verify it publicly and also have documented recordings of it, people will think that didn't happen, you are misremembering, and it is not what you thought it was. Was there something terrifying about her?
Terrifying is a term too emotionally charged for your semantic memory, or what remains of it. But although she's often considered to be the greatest human being to ever live, there was something ominous about Dolores Day, constantly surrounded by her theriers.
Well, surely any Innocence would be surrounded by the servicemen.
She was the most socially secluded and least self-aware of all the Innocences. Some modern thinkers would consider her a war criminal for the campaigns she waged against the Mesk state. And then there were the resettlement programs.
What happened?
The Mesk state tried to detach itself from Innocentic rule. Parts of the world were experiencing whiplash from accelerating into secularism. Her mandatory education programs and mass resettlement of upstream Marguerite were problematic as well. Dissenters were suppressed by a military force she called the Army of Humanity, suggesting those who fight against it are not part of humanity.
That's a good way to get people to work against you.
She adored chess, yes, but also military war games. Dolores Day often holds a tiny tin soldier between her index finger and thumb in icons such as this. She was also blonde, the blondest woman you have ever seen, with green eyes the color of the Pacentic, mare interregnum. Little is known of her Marchese husband. It's as if he vanished from history after completing his role, which was to introduce Dolores Day to court. In conclusion, yes, there is something lonely, paranoid, and even terrifying that people seldom mention, but feel when they think of her.
They gain some XP. Okay.
This subtle terror is part of her iconography.
It's part of the reason why she is so revered. Yeah. Just a pinch of fear.
Lieutenant Yefrater, you've stood there for over 5 minutes.
Lieutenant's calm voice echoes in the cold air of the church.
What are you thinking of, if I may ask?
She's somehow connected to the case. Glowing lungs, that's fucked up. Why did we tolerate this bourgeois woman that long before we shot her? Nothing, just looking around. She's beautiful, she's not human. Yell, war criminal. Okay. I can't say she's somehow connected to the case. She's connected to the world, which is implicitly connected to the case, but not a direct connection. I kind of want to mention about the lungs, because that is a standout feature. I'm not going to say this about bourgeois women. Just looking around is obviously clearly not the case, because I'm thinking. She's beautiful, she's not human, war criminal. I mean, it kind of sounds like she was a war criminal. She is beautiful. Is she human? I don't know. I'm gonna go with the glowing lungs.
Yes, glowing lungs are quite unusual. After that one time, they have not been reported to glow.
Oh, it was one time? Oh, I thought it would happen more times. He takes his glasses off to clean them.
You know, this church, the coast, we shouldn't linger. Finish what you came here to do and let's move on. This isn't a good place to get lost in.
Well, I've just realised that I am standing up and down and raving on the stairs, so we'll move on when we feel like it. This is Dolores' day.
The old woman in the village was right. This must be the Dolorian Church of Humanity in Martinez, or the small Pinewood Church in some records.
You knew of the place?
It's a minor landmark, not easy to find. Most maps misplace it. It was built not long after Revachol's founding, 300 or so years ago, by first-generation settlers.
On the coast of an uninhabited archipelago where only animals had roamed before, in the wild reeds.
What else do you know?
There used to be 7 stave churches on the coast. Les Setsa, they call them, the 7 sisters. Only one remains. The rest were burnt in the revolution or used for building materials.
So this is the last one.
We should be respectful here, although the building appears to be deserted. I do not believe we'll find anything connected to the lynching here. Something else, perhaps?
And that could be related to the lynching, you don't know. He looks at the machinery lying around.
Respectful. Is the lieutenant a follower of Delorianism?
Ooh, and we got another skill point. So, Kim, are you a follower of Delorianism?
Yes, we all are. Her name, body, and rule are synonymous with humanism. The laws we enforce are Delorian in origin.
Stroke your chin first. I didn't think you were spiritual. I don't like her, she looks like a lever. I want to go,
The woman looks by in silence, smiling enigmatically.
I didn't think you were spiritual.
It's not spiritual, it's constitutional. The Dolorian system does not demand faith, only accordance.
Okay, so I did just get a skill point, so I can try this visual calculus check and then retry it. So let's do that.
A jigsaw of broken shards falls into place in front of you, a ghostly reconstruction of the stained glass window. Before it was shattered, there was an older woman beneath the younger one, and a text, a light motif below them both.
What shattered this mosaic?
Unknown.
Unknown, really?
A motor carriage, a gunshot, someone falling into it, or maybe just hooligans looking for something to break.
Who is this older woman?
The escutcheon on her throne says, Irene the Navigator. She is depicted as an older woman wearing thick-rimmed eyeglasses, holding a golden rights apfel in one hand and a scepter in the other. This is the queen her Innocence day advised. Above, she herself is whole.
Yeah, there's a stark difference between the Innocence and the Queen, who should have been the most important person at the time.
Small figures of wise men, common men, worshippers walk up the stairs to stand at her feet. Secret servicemen, 30 years, stand in a row guarding her. It must have taken years to produce this work in all its dizzying detail.
The motto, what does it say?
Below both women, in luminous black letters, Après la vie, mort. Après la mort, la vie de nouveau. And then, along the left side, Après le monde, la gré. Après le gré, le monde de nouveau. After life, death. After death, life again. After the world, the pale. After the pale, the world again. This is the great leitmotif of humanism, a summary of the effect of the discovery of this isola, the insulindian, on human thinking. A tremendous sea change akin to finding life after death.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you discover the pale, the negation of being in between the landmasses that life exists in, then yeah, of course that's going to have a massive effect on how people think about the world in general. I mean, I personally, after playing this game, the concept of reality is much different compared to knowing about the pale now. Lieutenant, this used to say after life, death. After...
Death, life again. After the world, The pale after the pale, the world again. This exaltation is common in Dolorian sacralism. In the early years, it was even incorporated as the RCM slogan. No more, however.
Why?
It was deemed subservient to use a strongly moral intern-related motto. We already suspected of bootlicking. The sentence was also seen as too feminine. It was a macho thing.
I mean, I would say about it being too long, but too feminine, that's... What is the motto now?
Justice, union, prudence, and force.
Force? Cool, not very feminine. I like the other one better. I like this, put the fear of God back in that... So... Yeah, I think I prefer the other one better.
So do I.
Alright, let's step back.
The mother of humanism towers above you, a wax painting on a cracked pane of glass. Nothing has changed in her expression.
Turn away. Alright, so let's get off the stairs so I no longer start having that raid. What's this?
Hey, her Innocence Dolores Day liked little figurines, right? Liked holding little men between her fingers, remember?
What?
You have the headless Fallen Rider figurine. You should give it to her. Win her back.
What? Win who back? I can't win her back. She's a long-dead historical figure. I should, yes. This is a task of mine now. She's a long-dead historical figure?
Don't be so pessimistic. Love doesn't die that easily.
I mean... Oh, I can't check my inventory, can I? I don't think I'm going to be using the figurine for anything, so sure, this is a task of mine.
So very, very, very nifty. Nifty and mysterious. This is surely what the figurines are for.
New task, offer figurines to Dolores Day. Okay, so how many items do I have? So I've got one, right? The Headless Fallen Rider. That's the only one, though. Okay. I guess I have the Grouse, but that's for guards, technically. Or I could sell it. Sure. So, let's go ahead and internalize that thought.
Some kind of superstar.
That was quick.
They say the world isn't ready for a rock and roll cop. No one wants their state monopoly on violence to be mixed with celebrity worship. They claim to know it would be dangerous for detectives to rise to the ranks of demigods and have sexual encounters with barely legal cover girls. It would be insane, they say. To all this, you say, fuck off and die, in a cool voice. You people have no idea how good these cops are gonna get. They're gonna crack 20 cases a day. In the future, cops will be like astrophysicists, or prime ministers, or prophets. And you're the first one.
Ooh. So, -1 logic, which is the price of self-delusion, but the learning cap for visual calculus, suggestion, electrochemistry, and composure all raised up to 6. Alright, so then if we go to our skill list, yeah, some have gone up very high. So visual calculus is, wow. Okay, that's a lot. And then electrochemistry, suggestion is pretty high up now. Volition's pretty high. Yeah, I'll tell you what, we've got a lot of skill points, potentials at least here. So calculus, suggestion, electrochemistry, composure. Yeah, composure, electrochemistry, suggestion. Yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot. Okay, so what other thoughts do we have? Motorway south is almost done. How much time left? 10 minutes. So that'll be done pretty quickly as well. Okay, so what do we have here? The bowl is filled with water. A live wire runs directly into it. Could these wires work as contact microphone?
The silence in this part of the church, it's almost palpable. All the shifting matter and shuffling of living things is gone. Nothing seems to exist beyond the church anymore. Maybe if you were to stand in just the right spot, even your footsteps would be completely silent.
Wait, I think I still hear something.
And then it's gone. Almost all of it. But for the faintest of hums, you can hardly hear your own breathing.
Yell as loud as you can, stomp your feet and clap your hands. I think I'd rather go with stomp your feet.
You produce a few muffled thumps, after which the silence feels even more total, somehow.
Alright, yell as loud as you can.
Your voice is barely audible. Not a howl, but the softest of whimpers.
I'm going to take morale damage for this, aren't I?
It's unnerving.
Turn to Kim, what's happening?
The lieutenant points to his ears and shakes his head. Then he leans closer.
Can you hear anything?
Almost nothing, and it's beginning to worry me. Not really, but it's extraordinary. I've never experienced anything like this. Can't hear shit. Not really, but it's extraordinary.
I wonder why the church was built with such strange acoustics.
Maybe the church was designed this way to prevent boisterous activity, singing and dancing, on its premises.
That makes sense, actually, because if you can kind of direct the noise to a particular direction, then it won't disturb anything else, like outside the church. Maybe they wanted to discourage singing and dance. Oh, it's to prevent it entirely. Oh, okay, well, maybe not. So maybe they want to discourage it. What if it's something paranatural? It's probably nothing, just our imagination. Whatever it is, something's definitely real, something odd is happening. What if it's paranatural?
Please, detective, not this again.
Yell as loud as you can. Turn to Kim.
Can you hear anything?
Here we go.
Maybe the church was designed this way.
It's definitely real.
The lieutenant doesn't reply, but you can sense him tense up next to you.
Look up into the bell tower.
The orderly rows of ceiling panels become barely visible, then disappear completely in the darkness of the tower overhead.
So, I have, what if I don't want to know what's up there? For a perception check, challenging 12, try to see beyond the shadows. It's a red check. So, because I have a point, I am going to put a point into perception, and we'll make this a little bit easier. So, done. 83%. Alright, let's give it a go. I rolled a 3. Okay. Well, I just have to make do with it. I really hope... Oh, is it a crab man?
Just darkness without end. It makes your head spin.
Alright. What's the darkness like?
Filled with vague shapes of woodwork. The sense of a great height.
Try to make out something, anything.
There's nothing. You're dizzy and disoriented as you see dark and more dark rising.
Officer, what are you looking at?
He's following your gaze, attempting to see whatever it is that you are seeing. Blink? Oh. Oh, it's a crab man.
You see something hanging from the rafters, looking straight at you with dark eyes.
It's called Tiago.